Okay. So thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you first and foremost to Dr. Mordechai Kedar, and I soon will introduce you as our guest speaker today. I will mention that about 2 months ago, during the most recent conflict, part of maybe the culmination of our 2.5 year war that's been going on, we made a move that we have been planning for a while, which is to begin creating a Israel community in Ethiopia. And these are different people from different backgrounds who are involved and very passionate about defending Israel, relations with Israel from their own personal lives or from their spiritual lives, and are active online and in their communities in defending Israel. As we've seen, we also have some international guests as well, which we're happy also to include. So now this evening we're going to be speaking. Our special guest is Dr. Mordechai Kedar. He's a prominent Israeli scholar of Arab culture, a lecturer at Bar Ilan University, and the retired lieutenant colonel in the IDF military intelligence. Dr. Kedar is known as an expert on the Arab world, specifically in Islamic groups, Arab mass media, and many additional topics. He's been a media pundit. He's known also for very unique and creative peace plans or something like that. And he's really a real warrior for Israel. Often we see him, and I think we've shared some of his videos in our group. Also, we see Dr. Kedar defending Israel in the Arab media. In different channels who don't often hear a perspective from the Israeli side. So I will now hand over the floor to you, Dr. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me make you also now a host so that you can also share as you requested. Let me see. But you can already begin speaking if you would like before, if you still don't have anything to share.
I do have, but first I have a little question. How long are we planning to be here together, including questions and answers?
I think our maximum will be, anywhere from 1 hour altogether to 1.5 hours, something like that. But it depends on the, the presentation, the questions and answers. I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion and interest, of course. But I don't want it to go for longer than 1.5 hours, let's say, and past 8:30. So unless you have time. But you're volunteering to do this, so we really appreciate your time and your efforts. Yeah.
I am not limited because this is the last function of today.
Okay.
And from here, I am free tonight to everything. So I'm yours for as long as you guys want.
Wow. I think you have to realize how special this is, everyone who's connected,
And please take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Well, whoever has anything to do with the Middle East, listening, hearing, watching TV, reading articles, or whatever, or who is ever exposed to whatever happens in the Middle East, understands that there is a struggle, bitter struggle, big struggle about Jerusalem. First of all, the war which Hamas started on October 7, 2023, is called in Hamas terminology Tawafan al-Aqsa, means the flood of Al-Aqsa. And Aqsa is the mosque which they claim is in Jerusalem. Later we speak about this. Formerly the Intifada, the second Intifada, was called Intifadat al-Aqsa, means the uprising of al-Aqsa. Many things here in between us and our neighbors are around Jerusalem and around al-Aqsa. So there is definitely a struggle. The Palestinian Authority keeps saying that Jerusalem is their capital, although the PA has nothing to do in Jerusalem. No agreement talks about this, that we are going to share our ancestral capital city with anyone in the world, let alone the Palestinians, Arabs, who never had a state, who never had anything in Jerusalem, only because they claim. And although Jerusalem, they claim that Jerusalem should be the capital city, although Jerusalem was never any capital of anything connected to the Arab or the Islamic world. Jerusalem was only capital of Jewish states, the first temple, the second temple, and Christians. The Crusaders who came here took Jerusalem as their capital. Means only religions which believe in the Bible, whether the first testament or the second testament, only they have a recorded and registered history in Jerusalem. Muslims have no history in Jerusalem as a capital. Here, let me just turn the phone off. So there is no historic basis to the Palestinian claim to Jerusalem as their capital. Not only this, the Arab world keeps telling us, establish a Palestinian state, and its capital should be Jerusalem, including Jordan, the Kingdom of Jordan. Well, just to remind everybody, Jordan occupied what they call the West Bank, actually the Judea and Samaria, and East Jerusalem also. East Jerusalem, the old part of Jerusalem, the ancient part of Jerusalem, was under Jordanian occupation for 19 long years, between 1948 and 1967. Means the Jordanians had 19 years to establish a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Why didn't they do it? The Jordanians had 19 years, which is approximately 7,000 days. They had 7,000 opportunities to do exactly what they demand today that Israel will do. Establish a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria, and Jerusalem as its capital. But the Jordanians, when they occupied all these areas, Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem, they did not bother to establish a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. Why? If they think that this is something which Israel should do, why didn't they do it when they could? When all these areas were under their occupation, who could resist? Who could object it? Okay, so this demand to Jerusalem sounds a bit awkward. If the Jordanians who demand it today, they didn't do it those days. The Arab world also demands it. Why didn't the Arab world demand that Jordan will do the same thing during those 19 years between 48 and 67? Interesting. Also states in the world who demand that we do, again, we enable Palestinian state and Jerusalem as its capital. Why didn't they maintain the same pressure on Jordan during those 19 years? Europeans, Africans, Americans, Asians, many. Why didn't they do it those days? So it's a bit strange, this demand from Israel. So people say, well, Jerusalem is the third place in holiness to Islam. Therefore, it cannot be under Jewish occupation. At least this is a coherent sentence. Since it's holy to Islam, Jews should not control it. Jerusalem, I speak. And this actually saying, which sounds logical, have difficulties in this as well. First of all, not all the Muslims think that Jerusalem is holy to Islam. The Shia considers another place, third place in holiness after Mecca and Medina. Mecca and Medina are in Saudi Arabia. Third place in holiness is not Jerusalem, according to the Shia. Because for the Shia, the third place in holiness after Mecca and Medina is the town of Najaf in Iraq, not Jerusalem. The first time when the Shia started to speak about Jerusalem was after the Khomeini revolution, the Islamic revolution in Iran, which was in 1979. And the Shia was established right after Muhammad died in 632 CE. Means for more than 1,000 years, the Shia never spoke about Jerusalem. Only 47 years ago. Okay? And the third place in holiness for Shia is Najaf. So Shia has nothing to do with Jerusalem. And also within the Sunni Muslims, there is a debate whether Jerusalem is holy or not, or holier than any other town like Cairo, Damascus, Beirut. And those who do not think that Jerusalem is any holier than Mecca and Medina, or any holier than Damascus and Beirut, are very important scholars in Islam, in the Sunni Islam. Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, from the 14th, 15th century, or even before him, Al-Ghazali, who was one of the founders of the Sufi Islam, they didn't think that Jerusalem is any holier than any other city apart from Mecca and Medina. So even in the Sunni Islam, there is a debate about the holiness of Jerusalem. So therefore, we have to really investigate where did the holiness of Jerusalem come from if the Shia doesn't recognize it. And even within the Sunnah, there are debates. It's controversial about the holiness of Jerusalem. And in order for this, we have to check the Islamic sources, the books of Islam. First and most important book of Islam, which is the Quran, does not mention Jerusalem at all. Jerusalem does not appear in the Quran in any of its names. So, for time being, we'll put the Quran aside and we'll go to the secondary source of Islam, which is the Hadith. Hadith is the oral tradition. The Hadith is actually a big collection of anecdotes and stories about Muhammad, about his companions, about his whereabouts, about how he dressed, how he ate, what he said, what he didn't say, how he related to all kinds of events, what did he answer to all kinds of questions, how did he behave within his home with his wives. And all these stories about Muhammad are actually the source of the Sharia, of the Islamic law, because the Quran gives the ideas. The Hadith gives the actual deeds of Muhammad, which are the precedent for every Muslim how to behave in every situation. This is why the Hadith is more important for the Sharia more than the Quran, or more influential. The Hadith has a lot about Jerusalem. However, we have to know what the Hadith is. Hadith is an oral tradition which was carried by heart for around 200 years into the Islam. 200 years, the Hadith was by heart. One heard it from another one, who heard it from another one, who heard it from another one, who heard from another one, who heard the Prophet Muhammad saying such and such. This is the Hadith. Now, the problem is that when people remember things by heart for 8 or 9 generations, it means that there are problems of memory, because there are muhaddithin, there are people who carry the hadith, who learned, let's say, 1,000 hadiths, 1,000 stories, and they pass forward only 500 because they forgot. They forgot. There were others who heard, let's say, 1,000 hadith and passed forward 2,000. What does it mean? That they created hadith as if they heard it from the previous. And this was the problem with the hadith. The biggest factory of hadith was the rift between the Sunnah and the Shia, which was a political rift in Islam about this question of succession of Muhammad. The Shia is those who thought that Ali bin Abi Talib, the Prophet's Muhammad's cousin, should be the caliph, he and his descendants until the end of time. And others, the Sunnah, are those who took the caliphate from Ali, and they are the legitimate successors of Muhammad. The struggle between both sides of Islam created much of hadith. The Shia hadith supports the demand of the Shia to government in Islam, while the Sunni hadith, which is totally different, supports the Sunni demand to power. And both are two definitely distinct kinds of the hadith, totally different from each other. So which hadith is the correct one? The Sunni or the Shia? Okay, this is the big question about the hadith, the authenticity of hadith, and the question is which hadith is real hadith. 1200 years ago, 9 experts of hadith stood up and said that this situation is impossible, that there are so many differences in the hadith between the Sunnah and the Shia, between all kinds of others, and they tried to clean the hadith from all the forgeries which were introduced into the hadith. And they left 9 collections, because there were 9 scholars, which are more or less the same collection of hadith, which are the reliable. They kicked out like 90% of the hadith as forged, as mistaken, as suspected as forged, and so forth. And this is the real story about the hadith, that what we have today as the hadith is very questionable according to Islamic scholars before others. So this is why I give this presentation about hadith, because everything which is about Jerusalem in Islam is from the hadith. And it has to be taken very carefully and to see what is correct and what is a forgery. The story of Islam with Jerusalem is actually based on a research of the hadith, which, like a puzzle, took stories and wove them together in order to see the right picture. And this is what I want to bring to you, the real story of Jerusalem in Islam. And now the lecture starts. Until now, it was the preamble for the preface. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of Islam. The story of Jerusalem in Islam starts in Saudi Arabia, what today is Saudi Arabia, in a place named Mecca. Let me show you the place, and we will share it with you just to see what we are and where we are. This is Saudi Arabia of today. For us, Jerusalem is here, where the cursor is. We are talking about Mecca here. Later we'll talk about Medina here, and Taif. These are the places which are important. This area is named the Hijaz, the western part of today's Saudi Arabia, the western part of the Arab Peninsula. Our story starts in Mecca, more or less in the year of 610 CE. This town, for centuries already, is a town of idol worshipping. Idol worshipping. The main idol which the pagan Arabs of the Arab Peninsula, of the Hijaz, worshipped was a black stone named Al-Kaaba, which is in Mecca, and they believed that this goddess named Al-Kaaba is in charge of fertility, means childbirth, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. Everything which connected to the human reproduction. This goddess, the Kaaba, is in charge of that. Therefore, anyone who will worship this stone will have children. Anyone who will not have children. So they all came to worship this goddess. Every tribe had its own goddess, apart from the Kaaba, like Elat, El-Manat, El-Uzza, and many others. But everybody believed in the Kaaba because everybody wanted children, and they will all come to Mecca to worship Kaaba. Another reason to come to Mecca was for, to deal with merchandise, because the Al-Quraysh tribe, which was in Mecca, were dealers. They were buying and selling and making money out of commerce. So everybody came to Mecca. Mecca is a haram, means a town without any weapons, because weapons are not good for business, as we all know. And the pontifex of the Kaaba, if I may say it, pontifex, the Kohen of the Kaaba, the servant of the Kaaba, was a guy named Abd al-Muttalib in that year of 610 CE. And the people of Mecca, the Quraysh tribe, they had some habits. First of all, they were cheating in commerce. They had a light kilo for selling and heavy kilo for buying, and that's how they made money. But the difference of the same measurement or the same weight between buying and selling, they made good money out of forgery in this stage. Another thing was that they were buying and selling servants, means catching people in the desert, and they would sell them to slavery. And to sell people to slavery was very humiliating, because they would strip them off totally, men and or women, and sell them in order for the bypasser to see the merchandise in the marketplace. Third thing which they were doing is burying the daughters alive. Means don't bury, they will put them, they didn't need so many women, because women are attractive for assaults, so they tried to reduce the number of women to the minimum number in order to keep the life of the tribe. And if a girl was born and they thought that they don't need her, they put her near the tent, and pretty soon the animals would come, the wolves and tigers and others which were in the desert, or vultures and eagles in the sky would come and eat those poor girls 1 or 2 days after they were born. In the year of 610, a Jewish guy came from Yemen. Apparently he was a rabbi. His name was Ka'b. And he settled in the house of Abd al-Muttalib, the servant of the Kaaba. A big house, rich house. And this Jewish guy, he was actually a rabbi in Yemen. He, in the house, was sitting with a youngster named Muhammad, and told him the stories of the Bible, the Torah, the prophets, and the Mishnah and the Talmud, means the oral tradition, the Jewish, and the Midrashim. And he told all the stories of Judaism, which the rabbi knew. And Muhammad heard those stories and believed in them, and went out to the street to tell the people about Abraham, about Adam and Eve, how Eve was created from the rib of Abraham, how Abraham was created from mud, and how Allah put them in the Garden of Eden, and told them not to eat from the tree in the middle of the garden, and they did, and he kicked them out, and the wicked people. So Allah told Nuh to build an ark, tabut in Arabic, and he saved him and his wife and his children and all the animals. And then came Abraham, and he had two wives, Sarah and Hagar, and Sarah had a son named Ishaq and Hagar, and all these things in the Quran. All these things in the Quran. And Hagar had the son Ismail, and Allah told Ibrahim to slaughter his son Ismail, not Ishaq. Okay? And then there was Isaac and Jacob had 12 sons, Asbat. And okay, all these stories, and Joseph, all this story with Joseph, what he had with his brothers, and they threw him to the pit, and he was sold to Egypt, and then everything which he had in Egypt, and with the lady, and with the Pharaoh, and all these stories from the Bible. So the people of Mecca, when they heard these stories from Muhammad, they said, hey, these are the stories of the Jews and the Christians. You actually recycle asatir al-awwalin. In Arabic, asatir al-awwalin, the stories of the first ones, means Jews and Christians. They accused them actually for plagiarism, to take the Jewish and the Christian sources, because it also told them about Isa ben Maryam, means Jesus, the son of Mary. So also appears in the Quran. So they accused him for plagiarism, that the whole thing about calling to Allah and all these things is taken from the Jews and the Christians, because all these stories are. So this is actually the main problem of legitimacy of Muhammad, who was suspected by the Meccans to be only or no more than a plagiarist who are taking the stories of the Jews and the Christians and tries to sell them as if Allah gives him these stories. And this is actually the main problem of Muslims, that Islam is being suspected already at the beginning of Islam to be no more than a copy and paste of Jewish and Christian sources. Jerusalem was taken by Muhammad as a direction of prayer only after he ran away from Mecca in the year of 622, and he settled in Medina to the north from Mecca, where he was accepted, and he wanted to Islamize the Jews of Medina, which were more or less half of the population, the Banu Qurayza, the sons of Qurayza, and he wanted to convert them to Islam. So he directed the direction of the prayer, of the Islamic prayer, to Jerusalem, saying, you pray to Jerusalem, we Muslims pray to Jerusalem. And the Muslim community in his days was like 100 people, no more. His success in Mecca, in his first time in Mecca, like 12 years, was very limited. So he ran away because they wanted to kill him, because he wanted to abolish the slave trade and what they did to the daughters as well. So they hated the Mecca, so he ran away to Medina, and there he directed for 16 months the prayer to Jerusalem in order to convince the Jews to convert, maybe the Christians as well, if there was an abbey near Medina, which he also tried to Islamize the Christians in this abbey, and he failed because they didn't take him seriously. The Jews also didn't take him seriously, so he slaughtered them all in Medina and in Khaybar, also a village near Medina. So there was no reason to pray to Jerusalem. So he directed the prayer to Mecca, and Muslims pray to Mecca until this very day. And this was the end of Jerusalem, of the whole of Jerusalem, in the days of Muhammad, who never came out of the Hijaz. Let's go first to the first time in Mecca. In those days, in the first 12 years of his prophecy, if it's called prophecy, he used to go to Taif. Just to show you again, Taif is located to the east. This is Taif, to the east from Mecca. Mecca is here, Taif is here. He used to go to Taif once in a while in order to spread Islam in that town. And he had a community of followers in Taif as well, and in order to keep connection with his community. The road to Taif takes a day and a half. Day and a half of ride to Taif. Between day and half a day, there is always a night, even those days. And at night, you do not want to be in the desert by yourself because you will be devoured either by four-legged animals, those who eat the little girls during the day, they will eat you and your camel or your horse or your donkey at night if you stay out there in the desert, or two-legged animals who will catch you in order to sell you to slavery in the next day in the marketplace. So between the four-legged animals and the two-legged animals, you do not want to stay in the desert by yourself at night. What do you have to do? You have to find a place with people who will protect you as they protect themselves from the same animals. And sure enough, between Mecca and Medina, there is a village named Jorana. Let me show you how Jorana looks like. Share. This is Jorana. Well, this is. See? Jorana. This village is Jorana. It's how Google Maps look at the place. It's not so much different between today and the 7th century because this is the desert. And in the desert, changes are very, very small. This is Mecca here. This is Jorana. And Taif is to the east. See? Taif. This is Taif. So, if you zoom out, this is Mecca, this is Taif, and this is Jorana. Muhammad used to walk for half a day to Jorana, spend the night here within the people of Jorana, protecting him from the animals, and in the morning he would pray and go to Taif 1 day walk. His way back was 1 day walk from Taif to Jorana, spend the night in Jorana, wake up in the morning, pray, and go to Mecca half a day. Where would he pray in Jorana in the morning when he woke up? In one of two mosques which the people of Jorana built according to the Islamic sources. One mosque was close to the village, and it was named Al-Masjid Al-Adna, means the closer mosque. Or he would pray in the other mosque, which was further from the village, on the other side of the valley, near the village, and it was called the further mosque, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa and Al-Adna, two mosques near Jorana, between Mecca and Taif, according to Islamic sources of the same time, of the time of Muhammad. Al-Aqsa and Al-Adna. One morning, he wakes up in Mecca, and he tells his companions a wonderful story which happened to him at night, that he had a journey at night to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and from there to heaven. And this story is in the Quran, chapter 17, verse 1, which says, Blessed be he, means Allah, who took his servant at night. At night means in spite of all the dangers, the four-legged and the two-legged dangers, who took his servant at night from the holy mosque, which is Mecca, to the further mosque, Al-Aqsa, which is in Jordan, in order to show him our wonders, means Allah says our wonders, since he, means Allah, sees and hears everything. This was the verse in the Quran. This is the verse in the Quran which talks about the night journey of Muhammad. It's too much. Let's without it. No, it's not enough. Let us turn the light here. Meanwhile, the evening is. Oh, this is much better. So this verse in the Quran, chapter 17, verses 1, talks about the night journey of Muhammad from the Holy Mosque to Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa in these days was in Jordan. Fast forward, 632, Muhammad dies and the time of the caliphs start. First caliph, Abu Bakr, ruled 2 years, was bitten by a snake, died. Second ruler was Umar. Umar occupied Iraq in 636, 4 years after Muhammad died, and he went to the Sham, to the land of Israel, in order to occupy Jerusalem and what is to the north from Jerusalem. He puts a siege on Jerusalem towards the end of 637, October, and it was beginning of the winter, and the bishop Sophronius, who was the owner or the ruler, the leader of Jerusalem, the Byzantine, the leader of Jerusalem, closes the gates and prepares the town for a siege in the winter. He hoped that rain will be good and all the cisterns of Jerusalem will be filled with water, which will enable Jerusalem to be in the siege when the summer comes after April of the next year. Unfortunately, rains on that winter were very little, and towards April 638, the cisterns were full only half. And Sophronius understands that the town will not survive a siege. There will be a shortage of water, people will start fighting with each other about the water, and the Muslims will conquer it by force. And he knew from other sources that if town or city surrenders to the Muslims, they usually honor the agreement of surrender and they leave people alive. However, if they have to fight, they slaughter the men and they take all the women. And he didn't want to be slaughtered. It's not so kind. So he, in April of 638, he surrenders. He goes out from the gate, goes to Umar's camp, and he signs an agreement of surrender. He invites Umar, the caliph, to come into the city with his entourage. And it was 638, 6 years after Muhammad died. Who is in the entourage? Of course, Umar, the leader, and also Ka'b, the Jewish mentor of Muhammad. He was still alive, and he was with the entourage of Umar entering Jerusalem. Jews were not welcomed in Jerusalem for some 100 years under the Byzantine occupation, and Ka'b actually was the first Jew to go to Jerusalem as a Jew under the ownership of Umar the caliph. Sophronius, the bishop, takes them to a tour in the city and about to enter the Temple Mount. Ka'b takes off his shoes because it's a holy place. Umar sees him, and this story is being told by Tabari, the historian of that time. Umar, the caliph, sees Ka'b, the Jewish guy, holding his shoes in his hands, and he asks him, why is it? Why do you walk without shoes? So Ka'b tells him, this is a holy place. So Umar looks at him and says, you are trying to push Jewish concepts into our religion. You immediately put your shoes on before I am getting mad at you. Now, Ka'b knew that when Umar, the caliph, when he gets mad at somebody, this man will lose the connection between his head and shoulders very quickly. And he didn't want to lose this connection. You know, it is very important for life. So he put his shoes on by force, means by the order of Umar. What does this story mean? It means that the days of Umar, when Jerusalem was occupied, it was not considered to be a holy place yet. Because if it was considered holy, Umar himself would take off his shoes. No, he would tell all the entourage to take their shoes off. But what happens is totally opposite. Umar lived with Muhammad very closely. He orders everybody, including Ka'b, the Jewish guy, to put on their shoes entering the Temple Mount. Means he did not consider the place to be holy yet. Fast forward, 661, the Umayyad clan takes Islam, and they become the caliphs for 90 years, ruling from Damascus, not from Medina, the capital, but from Damascus. Let me show you the map. So we are connected to the map. Where are we? Here it is. This is the map. Zoom out. Here is the Damascus, the Umayyad clan capital, who took over the Caliphate of Islam. And they ruled Islam from Damascus for 90 long years, from 661 all the way to 750. And they behaved in a way which the people of Mecca did not like. They were drinking wine. They were eating all kinds of things which were be eaten in this area, not only kosher things like cows, and they were wearing colorful garments, which is not customary in the desert, because there is water here, so you can dye clothes. And there were all kinds of rumors about what they did with the wives of the mujahideen, of the fighters who were fighting already in this area of Iran in that year of 670, 680. And there were sinners in the eyes of the clan of the Hashemites, those who remained in Mecca and Medina. And they were coming for Hajj every year in order to cleanse their sins. And they had many sins to clean, especially murder. In the year of 680, the army of the Umayyad dynasty catches Hussein ben Ali, who claimed to power the Shia. He was the son of the fourth caliph, Ali, the cousin of Muhammad. And they killed him in Karbala. See, Karbala in Iraq. And in order to prove to the caliph that the mission to kill the Hussein bin Ali was accomplished, they bring his head in a bag, in a sack, back to Damascus. And therefore, there's another reason, which in the year of 682, 2 years later, there was a rebellion in Mecca, and the rebels, headed by a guy named Abdullah ibn Zubayr, claimed that the Umayyads are actually apostates who left Islam because the way they behave and because they slaughtered Hussein bin Ali in Karbala. So they did not allow them, means the Hashemites who were in Mecca and Medina, did not allow the Umayyads to come to pilgrimage to Hajj, because Hajj is only for Muslims. And since they claim that the Umayyads left Islam by their behavior and by slaughtering Hussein bin Ali of the Shia, they are not Muslims anymore, so they are not allowed to come to Mecca and Medina. And they closed the ways of Hajj in front of their faces. So what did they do? They went to the caliph to complain that they cannot go to Hajj anymore. So the caliph said, Yazid bin Muawiyah said, oh, very big problem, but we don't have an army because half of the army is fighting in Iran of today, and half of the army in the West going to Morocco to occupy North Africa. So for 10 years, they could not come to Hajj, to Mecca. So what did they do? The ulama, the wise people of Islam, who worked for the caliph in Damascus, told him, yes, Mecca and Medina are closed. Let's take another city, which is under our hands, as a holy place for pilgrimage. He says, which? He said, Jerusalem. Jerusalem was holy for Jews. Jerusalem was holy for Christians. Let it be also holy for us, because many of the Jews and the Christians converted to Islam in order to get rid of taxation. And the idea that Jerusalem is a holy city is in the streets. So he said, but Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran. How can we convince the people to come to Hajj to Jerusalem instead of Mecca? So they said, hey, there is a verse in the Quran which says, blessed be he who took his servant from the holy mosque to Al-Aqsa mosque. Let's tell all the people that the Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem. It's not in Jordan. And we will author hadith in order to inflate the holiness of Jerusalem on the expense of Mecca. Since hadith was by heart, as you all know. And it was very easy to invent stories about Muhammad and his life and his companions and everything. So they started to author thousands of hadiths about Jerusalem. I'll give you one or two examples. One quotes another one, quotes another one, quotes one, quotes the Prophet Muhammad, which says, a prayer in a mosque is very important and gives you a reward. A prayer in Mecca will give you 7 times the reward. If you pray in Jerusalem, the reward will be 77 times. And if there is a snow in Jerusalem or very hot sun, and you are suffering from the snow or the sun while you pray in Jerusalem, your reward will be 777 times. Evidently, Jerusalem is holier than Mecca, because Mecca gives you 7 times, while Jerusalem gives you 77 times the reward, or even 777 times. Okay? This is a kind of hadith which was invented those days in order to convince the people to come to Hajj to Jerusalem rather than going down to Mecca. And there are many more stories about the fact that Jerusalem actually heals people from all kinds of diseases. and all kinds of. Another very, very interesting hadith was invented, which says like this. Somebody heard somebody who heard somebody who heard somebody who heard somebody who says that once the Muhammad, the Prophet, sat with the companions and said, forever there will be a group of Muslims who will be loyal to me and to my Islam and to my religion and my tradition, and nobody will be able to convince them because they will be loyal to Islam no matter what happens to them and no matter what people say about them. So his companions asked him, oh, the messenger of Allah, where are they? Where are they? So the messenger of Allah answered, they live in Jerusalem and around Jerusalem. Who lives in Jerusalem and around Jerusalem? The Umayyads. Okay? So without mentioning their name, Umayyads, the Prophet Muhammad already says that they will be loyal to Islam no matter what people say about them or claim about them. This is very clearly a hadith which was invented by the Umayyads because they were accused for leaving Islam by the Hashemites who closed the way to Mecca in front of the faces. Okay, so this is how a hadith was invented in order to serve groups for political reasons, religious reasons, all kinds of other reasons. And this is how Jerusalem became holy to Islam. This was the mechanism of the holiness of Jerusalem. And many stories about the ascending to Allah and going back, and all these stories about the night journey of Muhammad. All these stories were invented by the Umayyads in order to convince the people that Jerusalem is holier than Mecca. Because Muhammad went to heaven from Jerusalem, not from Mecca. So where will you go to pilgrimage? To Jerusalem or to Mecca? Definitely Jerusalem. So this is the source of the whole thing. However, what happened during the years, and the Christians occupied Jerusalem in the Crusades in the 11th and 12th centuries. And this was a big problem because the Crusaders also wanted to go to Mecca. As long as the Crusaders were in Jerusalem, Muslims couldn't care less because Jerusalem is a forgery. Only when the Crusaders started the preparations to go to Mecca, only then the Muslims started to fight against the Saladin. Okay? So this is, Jerusalem was not important because it was a forgery of the Umayyads. In modern times, Jerusalem is a problem because of another thing in Islam. Muslims, especially radical Muslims, believe that Judaism and Christianity are null and void because Islam came to the world in order to replace both Judaism and Christianity. They actually took the Christian theory of replacement one step forward, and now Islam came to the world to replace both Judaism and Christianity. As a result, Judaism and Christianity are din batil, which means in Arabic, a cancelled religion, or religion of falsehood, while Islam alone is din haq, means religion of truth. And therefore, since Judaism is null and void, just like Christianity, there is no reason for the existence of the state of Israel. Because a Jewish state is no reason. Judaism doesn't exist anymore because Islam came to the world to replace it with Christianity as well. Second reason is that the land of Israel is a holy land for Islam. Why? According to Islam, any country in the world which was once occupied by Islam should remain Islamic forever. There is no way to take a land out of Islamic rule and to give it to other religions. And this is what happened in Spain, by the way. Spain should return to, means the Iberian Peninsula should return to be Islamic. The island of Sicily, southern Italy, should return to be Islamic. And of course, the land of Israel should, the Palestine as they call it, should return to be Islamic because there is no way to take it. Who took it out? The Christians, the British occupation of the First World War. And Balfour, Lord Balfour, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the British government, who was an evangelical Anglican Christian, he gives it to the Jews in the Balfour Declaration, 1917. Who the heck gave it to Balfour to give it to the Jews? This Islamic country. Means that the giving of the country to the Jews by the Christians is actually a Christian-Jewish conspiracy against Islam. This is how they interpret it. Third problem is that Jews are not a nation. Jews are only communities which belong to all the nations in the world. A Jew in America is an American who happen to be Jewish, just like other Americans who are Christians or Muslims or whatever they are. A Jew in Morocco is a Moroccan Arab who happen to be Jewish, just like other Moroccan Arabs who are Muslims. So forth to be Jews in Yemen or in Russia or wherever Jews are. They are not, they are a religion, they are not a nation. So there is no reason for the existence of the state of Israel because there is no Jewish nation. And not only this, Jews, with Christians as well, should live under the Islamic rule, under the Islamic yoke as dhimmis. Dhimmis means second class or third or fourth class citizens with very limited rights. A Jew and a Christian cannot ride a horse, only a donkey, in order to denigrate them, in order to humiliate them. A Jew and a Christian should be marked. A Jew should be marked with a yellow patch, while Christian should be marked with purple patch. And this is not an invention of the Nazis, the yellow patch of the 20th century. It was invented in the Abbasid Baghdad in the 9th century because Jews and Christians were viewed as impure. So Muslims in the street should not touch them. So this was Jew should be marked in yellow and a Christian should be marked with purple. The Jew and the Christian should walk in the sewage canal in the street and the Muslims on the sidewalk. A sewage canal in the street was actually collecting whatever came out from the households and not only from the kitchens. And in this, the Jew and the Christian should walk in order to denigrate them and to humiliate because they don't believe in the right prophet. And they still stick to Din Batil, religion of falsehood, religion which is cancelled, both Jews and Christians. And they should be punished for this. So this is how Jews and Christians should live under Islam. As a result, Jews and Christians have no right to a state, any state. They don't have a right to a government, army, police, a ministry of whatever, a flag, a national anthem. They should all live under the Islamic yoke. And this is the big problem. Israel, the existence of Israel in general, the rule over Jerusalem in particular, and ruling the Temple Mount for them is a danger on Islam because the state of Israel ruling Jerusalem and Allah forbid, Jews pray on the Temple Mount all mean that Judaism came back to life. It's as a resurrection of Judaism thanks to Christianity, which actually brings Judaism back to life. What will be with Islam, which came to the world to replace both Judaism and Christianity? This is how they view Israel. This is how they view the rule of Jerusalem. And this is how they view both Shia and Sunnah, how they view the activity of Jews on the Temple Mount as a resurrection of Judaism, thanks to Christianity, from Balfour to Trump, who moved the embassy to Jerusalem. And this is the main problem of Jerusalem today. This is the struggle over Jerusalem. This is the struggle for the validity of Islam, for the value of Islam, whether it is real or not. And they are afraid that if Judaism comes back to life, thanks to Christians, and by the way, Christianity as well, again will come all those and will say that Islam is no more than asatir el-awwalim, the stories of the first one, plagiarism from Jewish and Christian sources. This is what they are afraid, that resurrection of Judaism with the support of Christianity will again bring the allegation which is stated in the Quran of the people of Mecca who accused Muhammad for plagiarizing the Jewish and the Christian sources. And this is what motivates them to come to jihad, holy war, in order to defend Islam from Judaism and Christianity, which are conspiring to come back to life in Jerusalem. And by the way, they see the Christian activity in Jerusalem and in the churches of Jerusalem and everywhere else. They see it as a danger also, because Christianity also comes back to life in Jerusalem, just like Judaism. And this is why this conspiracy between Judaism and Christianity is shared against Islam, to come back to life, that both religions will come back to life in Jerusalem. And this is the problem. And now the question is, what do we do with this? Do we surrender to the jihad against all of us, Jews and Christians alike? Or do we unite to tell them, hey guys, you behave. We are the first religions. You are no more than plagiarism of our sources. Just read the Quran. Compare it to the Old Testament and the New Testament. Just read it clearly, openly. And look how much Jewish and Christian ideas, Jewish and Christian people, they believe that Jesus was a Muslim prophet, just like Moses, just like Aaron, just like King Solomon and King David. All were Muslims because they believed in Allah. So they are retroactively, they become Muslims. They Islamized history after they Islamized the area. They Islamized everything. King Solomon built a mosque in Jerusalem, if you don't know. This is how they retroactively Islamize everything. Whoever believes in one God is a Muslim. This is why Judaism and Christianity are null and void, because Jesus Christ was a Muslim and Moses also was a Muslim. So we don't need Judaism and we don't need this Christianity as well. Would you accept such a thing? And this is actually what they believe. And the struggle over Jerusalem in order to take it out from Israel is meant to save Islam from the resurrection of Judaism and Christianity as well. Now the question is, do we support it or not? And here is our stand. Let me show you something which happened exactly in June 1st, 2008, which was, 18 years ago. Israel decided to build some hundreds of apartments in Jerusalem, in the eastern part of Jerusalem. And the Muslims didn't like it, of course, because if Israel builds in Jerusalem, it means that Israel is going to stay in Jerusalem forever. And the media outlet which serves the jihad, Al Jazeera, invited me to bash me on air against or because of the Israeli decision to build in Jerusalem. Let me show you what happened in this interview. Years later, and the man actually interviews dozens of people every single day because he's the chief narrator of Al Jazeera. 7.5 years later, towards the end, in December of 2015, the man, Jamal Rayan, speaks to Al Jazeera about his career. About his career. Let me show you something. 7.5 years passed. He remembers my name fully. He remembers my university. And he remembers the interview line after line. What does it mean? This is what we call post-traumatic phenomenon. No doubt. Look, I don't remember what I said yesterday. The man remembers for 7.5 years my name, my university, and line after line in that interview. That's what shows you when they are facing the truth, they are lost because they are exposed as liars. And this is why only the truth can face the jihadism, the extremism, the only thing. And this is why we should all fight it. Now, look at this. This scarf is being produced by the PA, by the Palestinian Authority. And this is the flag of the Palestinian Authority. Here it says, Al-Quds Lana. Jerusalem is ours. Since when? But that's what they claim. Jerusalem belongs to them. And they show the Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock. But on the other side, it shows Palestine. Fully. It is actually the map of the state of Israel. They call it Palestine. So where is Israel? So where is it? If this is Palestine, where is Israel? In the sea? Within the sharks? Okay. Now, this is one thing, one item. And they know, and there's a combination. They know if they have Jerusalem as they want, there will be no state of Israel. Because without Zion, there is no Zionism. And without Jerusalem, the Jewish state has no meaning. And they know it very well. This is why they demand Jerusalem as the capital. And not only this, they keep saying that without Jerusalem, their capital, they will not declare statehood. Why? Because if they do, and they actually leave Jerusalem to be Jewish, or to the Jewish people, supported by Christianity, they will not be able to show their faces again in any Islamic place, because they will be viewed as traitors who betrayed Islam by giving Jerusalem away to the Jews and the Christians. This is why they will not declare statehood unless Jerusalem is theirs. They will not have the face to show anywhere in the world if they will be accused for betraying Islam by giving Jerusalem to the Jews who are supported by the Christians. And this is why they claim that this Jerusalem should be the capital. And to the question, why didn't Jordan create a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital? Because it was not in the hands of Jews. It was not, because it was in their hands. If Jerusalem is in the Islamic hands, there is no need to create a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. Only when Judaism, supported by Christianity, occupied Jerusalem. Now we have to establish a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as capital in order to take Jerusalem out from the hands of the Jews and the Christians. And this is how this actually answers all the questions. This is a theological problem of Islam, which cannot fathom Jerusalem in the hands of Jews and Christians, giving them legitimacy as real religions, because they believe that both of them are cancelled by Islam. This is in short the story, because there are much more to say about maps, about many things, and I will maybe open the floor for questions, and maybe I'll try to answer.
Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Dr. Kedar. It was fascinating and I think also eye-opening, and your passion is also very evident, and it's a very important topic for all of us. If I can, I want to ask two short questions first. I want to open it up because they came up. There were so many things that come up, but two things that I think may be important also for the audience. First one is, how about some I've heard of, there's some actually quote unquote Zionist quotes in the Quran, like Bani Israel, and different actually ways that you can justify the existence of a Jewish state in the land of Israel. That's one thing. Another thing, I wanted to ask your perspective on this. Another one, which is somewhat connected, is how then, if what you explained and your the way you explained it, seems to be in your view, a very central part of the Islamic world right now. How do moderate Muslims feel? For example, how do we have allies, for example, with the Abraham Accords, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, countries which have maybe a different interpretation of Islam or something officially? Maybe you can a little bit expand on that.
Well, just remind me about the first question.
The first was maybe if there are any Zionist quotes, quote unquote, in the Quran about Jewish people and the land of Israel.
The land of Israel is mentioned, my land. There is a verse in the Quran which says that Allah says to the Israelites in the desert, "Oh, my people, enter my holy land which I subscribed for you."
Mm-hmm.
Means it's all my holy land. This is how it's depicted in the Quran. About the second question, yes, the interpretation of Islam in the United Arab Emirates, in Bahrain as well, Morocco as well, is more or less, if Israel has no right to exist, first of all, Israel was established by the permission of Allah. How do we know? Israel exists. Could the Jews do anything without the consent of Allah? Of course not. So the mere fact that Israel exists means that Allah allowed it to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. They say that they don't know the accounts of Allah, why Allah allowed the Jews to have a state and to conquer this country or to the land and to return to the land. They don't know, because Allah did not inform them what was the reason. But the fact that Israel is there for 78 and more years means that Allah allows it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do it. And Allah is omnipotent, means he can do whatever he likes. And if Allah thinks that Israel has no right to exist, Allah knows what to do. Allah doesn't need us. Allah, again, is omnipotent, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And if he wants to wipe Israel out from the map, he can do it in no time. He has his ways how to do everything. Who are we? We didn't get any nomination to be the jihadists of Allah, neither by phone, nor by mail, nor by email, nor by Facebook, or by anyway. We didn't get any letter from Allah, go and fight. So just like Allah enabled the Christians to have states like Ethiopia, like France, like Britain, like America, like many Christian states. We don't know why Allah enabled, by the fact that these states are existing and are strong states means that Allah allows it. We don't know why. Okay, this is the approach in these countries.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, anyone? Okay, Marcos, I see you're raising your hand, so you can be first. You can say your name and ask your question. You are still on mute.
Unmute yourself. Yes,
Okay.
unmute. Yes.
Yes. Dr. Mordechai, it's a pleasure to have you teach us. It's a great honor. I have been listening to your content for a long time and find it very insightful. One question I have is you mentioned that for Jerusalem, for the Sunni Muslims, that Jerusalem is the third holiest site, and for the Shia, it's Najaf in Iraq. And you also mentioned that it's after this Iranian Revolution in 1979 that shifted. Now, but that being said, what was the motivation of the Ayatollahs to target Jerusalem after that? What motivated them to turn on Jerusalem? That is one question I have.
So let me answer it before I forget it, because I have a very short memory.
Sure.
The view to Judaism as a cancelled religion whose resurrection is a threat on Islam, this view is shared by Sunni and Shia alike. This is the issue. This is why the Shia joined the campaign about Jerusalem. Not because Jerusalem is holier than Najaf. Not at all. But because the return of the Jews, with the mercy of the Christians, to Jerusalem, it is a danger on Islam, whether it is Shia or Sunni Islam. So they share the same idea.
And my second question is, how do you answer the claim by especially many anti-Israel people that okay, they compare Israel with the native Indians, that what right does Israel have to return to that land when they've been gone for 19 centuries? And so how do you respond to that claim and accusation?
Well, first of all, Europeans in America have no 3,000 years history, while we do have history of this country. Look, the 90% of the artifacts which are found in excavations here in Israel, 90% are of Jewish periods. 10% are Muslim Christians as well. But most of the findings here in Israel are Jewish. Okay, this is one thing. Second thing, we Jews remained loyal to the country. Always. There was always some Jews remained in this country, whether in Jerusalem or in Tzfat or in Pki'in or in other places. Small presence of Jews was through whole history. It's another thing. Third thing, we prayed to Jerusalem for 2,000 years. We mentioned Jerusalem in every occasion, the happy ones and the sad ones. And Jews kept coming and they visited this country for many times, many years, many periods of history. They were writing their books about their visits to this country. So the connection between the Jewish people and this land never disconnected totally. We always kept a thread between us, wherever we were, and this country. So, and this was recognized by the League of Nations in 1920 in the San Remo Convention in Italy. And the international community, resembled by the League of Nations, which is the United Nations version 1, gave us this country in the San Remo Conference of 1920 already. So according to the international law, Israel has all the right to exist as a Jewish state.
Thank you, Dr. Kedar.
Pleasure.
Thank you. I think I saw Sahilu.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Tomir. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Mordechai for his very interesting presentation. I truly enjoyed it very much and got a great deal of knowledge out of it, which really stabilized my early knowledge. My question is, your presentation is full of factors and using chronological approach. And how far have you worked in your educational system? Because the new generation, the responsibility is going to rest on the shoulders of the new generation. And how far have you tried to inculcate this really basic knowledge, very informative knowledge to the new generation? One. And secondly, how far have you reached to the international community based on your capacity? Is it limited? Now, let me go to the first question. Is it limited at a tertiary level, in a department level, the knowledge transformation process, or is it being provided to children at the starting from the early days of life in Israel?
Well,
thank you very much.
Unfortunately, whatever I said in this lecture is not politically correct. Because many people who care about political correctness would say, what do I care what the origin of the belief in Jerusalem in Islam? The fact that the Sunni Muslims, we are like 1.25 billion, believe it, this is what makes the difference. If they believe, let them believe. I don't go into the details and the source of this belief. For this, I would say, hey, wait a minute. What if they believe that your home belongs to them? Your private home belongs to them. Would you give it to them only because they believe in it? No, you wouldn't, right? So why should you give up on the Temple Mount or what they call Al-Aqsa by forgery more than your private home? And they do believe that your private home belongs to them. Don't be mistaken. Yeah. The whole country belongs to them. That's what they believe. So would you give up on this in order to gain others? No, it won't help you. Even if you give them, they will continue to demand everything else. So why give it to begin with? So this is disseminating this idea is very hard because Muslims, first of all, do not like it. Only the Saudis like it because the Saudis do think that Jerusalem is not holy, and they actually publicize it. But what I use is the social media. I give lectures like this to other circles as well. If you Google how did Jerusalem become holy for Muslims, Mordechai Kedar, you will find this lecture in other sites and in YouTube, and you'll hear even more details from what I gave you here. And there is another thing which is very interesting. If I would make a poll, I would ask people, what do they think about this? Let's say 10 years ago, they would not agree with me. However, I use Twitter, what today is called X, in order to send around the information about Jerusalem. And I write it in Arabic. And I do it for years already, about the sources of the holiness of Jerusalem, more or less what you heard. Like a year ago, I made a poll on X. How much do you believe that the Jerusalem holiness is a fake of the 7th century? So 28% agreed with me. This is a major thing. From 0, which would be 10 years ago, to 28% last year. Of course, the number of people who voted were 2,000, but dozens of thousands saw it. Okay? So 28%, maybe if I do it today, it will be even bigger because I continue to send around the information about the forgery of the holiness of Jerusalem. So the social media can bring a change. To say that these people started to love Israel, I'm not sure. But definitely people have doubts about this journey of Muhammad to Jerusalem and everything else, which was concocted about Jerusalem.
Excellent.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you very, very much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you so much for the question.
My pleasure.
Okay, I think Girma, you had your hand up. Girma?
Yes, thank you, Tomer. And I appreciate Dr. Mordechai for such wonderful history. This will help us to understand the current situation and for the future. But I like the Mordechai name and the history of Mordechai in the Bible. The man who refused to bow for Haman, the empire, which is related to the current Jewish people too. So thank you, Doctor. My question is, what is your reaction accordingly to the Bible history for those who are saying the current Israel and the Bible Israel is not the same? And why they want to say that, why they wanted to claim and do the propaganda of this? And what is your reaction or your answer for that? Thank you.
Well, you asked about the Greater Israel, which recently was in the media?
No, the current Israel. The current Israel, they are saying the current Israel and the Bible of Israel is not the same. People are claiming it careless
course.
anyway. When you see the count.
Yes, look, King David occupied half Syria of today. It doesn't mean that we have to claim it for us. King Solomon sent Jews from Jerusalem to Yemen, and they settled in Yemen, for the lines of ships which were in the Red Sea. So what does it mean that now we have to claim Yemen also? So the fact that Jews once lived in some place doesn't necessarily mean that this place belongs to us forever. The borders of Israel of today were mainly marked by the British and the French. This is, to say the truth, because this is the reality. Yet they are more or less parallel to the size or the borders of Israel, which were in different times. But yes, we sometimes had more, sometimes had less. Depends on politics, depends on military wars and things which were in this region for many years. And it was never, the land of Israel was never definite in this border or that border. Yet, the closer you get to Jerusalem, the more times it was Jewish. And Jerusalem was always. So this is, in short, our attitude to this. And believe me, we have no desires to go to Syria or to Jordan or to Lebanon or to Iraq, let alone Egypt. These countries, there is nothing which attracts us to go to these countries. Nothing is attractive.
Maybe Dr. Mordechai, I think the way I understood also part of Girma's question is that some today say that also the people of Israel are not the same people as were kind of like what you were saying that some of the Muslim world believes and also some of the Christian world believe that it's like a different group.
They say what you say, actually, they actually say, look, to claim that the Iraqis of today are descendants of the Babylonians is there's no connection between the Babylonian religion or language or anything with the Arabs of Iraq today. To claim that the Syrians are the descendants of the Assyrians, Ashur, is also because there is no connection between the religion and the heritage and the culture of the current Syrians, which are Arabs and Muslims, with the Assyrians of yore. In Lebanon, the ancient people were the Phoenicians in Lebanon. There is nothing which connects Lebanon of today with the Phoenicians. Nothing in the culture. Egyptians of today, there's Egyptians who claim that they are the descendants of the pharaohs in Egypt. So what? The religion today is there? The pharaoh religion or the pharaoh handwriting which we find in the tombs or the culture or anything? Nothing, because the population changed when the Muslims invaded Egypt and so forth. However, when you come to us, you see that our language, which is different in every other place, our language is exactly the language of the Bible, with modern words, some here and there. Our religion is the religion of the Jews, more or less, with the changes of the times. Religion of the Jews in the Bible. The land is the same land. The culture is the same culture, more or less. So we definitely are different from our environment because we remained all the years loyal to the country, loyal to the religion, loyal to the tradition, and loyal to our names, even our names of today. Mordechai. My name is Mordechai. It's the same name which we used in Persia of the Jews between the two temples when the Esther book was happened 2,500 years ago. The same names. Okay, so when a culture remains in its religion, in its customs, in its language, in its clothing, so definitely we can claim today that we are the descendants of the Jews of yore. Our neighbors did not preserve any connection because the religion is different, the language is different, the traditions are different, everything is different from the Babylonians or the Assyrians or the Phoenicians or the ancient Egyptians. So they envy us that we kept connection and we actually revived our language. There is no language in the world which was an ancient language, went to the museum, which we call the yeshiva, the learning, and came back to the street to be the language of the science, language of the media, language of the commerce, language of the judicial system, and language even of the thieves in the streets. This is what we mean by reviving a Hebrew. There is no other precedent all over the world of an ancient language which became relevant again. There is no story in the world of people who were 2,000 years in exile. No, in many exiles, in many countries, in all the world, in Ethiopia as well, who remained loyal to the country and actually returned to the country, and now they marry with each other regardless of where they came from. And this is not only returning to Zion, but returning to our one nationhood, including marriages within the nation. And this is what happened here. You can call it a miracle, you can call it not a miracle, but this is the situation today.
Thank you very much. Do we have time for another question?
I'm yours.
Okay. I see Habtu has raised his hand. So please, Habtu.
Thank you. That was new knowledge, especially why do the Muslims call Jerusalem a third holy city? That was really informing. But without further ado, I hope you write my question in the chat. Were you able to read my question in the chat?
No,
If you don't mind.
Would you like me to read it out?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Mordechai, for your lecture. As an Ethiopian Christian, I do not hold to replacement theology, and I deeply value our long-standing spiritual and historical ties with Israel dating back to the time of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Given this perspective, what do you see as the most constructive role for the global Christian community in supporting Israel while also contributing to a just and lasting peace in the region?
Well, what do I expect from the Christian world is, first of all, to recognize Israel as the state of the Jewish people with full rights to the minorities who live here, the Christian, the Alawites, and the Muslims and whoever. This is first thing. Second thing, I expect from all the Christians in the world to urge their governments to move the embassies to Jerusalem in order to convince our neighbors that the struggle of Jerusalem has failed, and Jerusalem forever will be a capital of the Jewish people, and full rights are given to Jerusalem to all the religions alike. Just to remind you, when the Jordanians were in Jerusalem for 19 long years, they did not allow Jews to come to Jerusalem, especially not Israelis. Okay? So only under the Israeli rule, the freedom of worship is granted to everybody. And now we just have to mention that recently the Friday of the Fire, which was like 2 months ago, was canceled because of the war. And you could not, according to the orders of our domestic front, they did not allow a gathering of more than 20 people in one place. So it was also on the Christian communities here in Israel, and this is why the ceremonies of that Saturday were canceled. Not because we have anything against Christianity, but because of the security of the people, because nobody would allow, let's say, a missile falling on 20 people or more 20 people and kill them. Nobody would allow it. So this is why this was cancelled. Otherwise, it is free here in Jerusalem to do whatever any religion and any culture believes. By the way, unlike Mecca, which non-Muslims are not allowed to enter this city. So just compare.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kedar. I think we've come to the end of the presentation.
There is
really
another one.
Oh, you have,
Marcos
okay. He
wants to
rose.
say something. Marcos.
Is that right?
Yeah. Marcos, please unmute yourself.
So, Dr. Kedar, thank you for your presentation again. Just one more question is, do you see a connection between the Treaty of Hudaybiyah back during the time of the Muhammad, the Oslo Accords, and the current treaties that have been signed with Iran? Do you see a pattern with that? And if yes, could you elaborate on that?
Well, Arafat was accused by his colleagues and Palestinians that he signed an agreement with Israel. So he said, what did our Prophet Muhammad did in Hudaybiyah, signing a temporary peace with the infidels of Mecca, who violated it after only 2 years. So the same thing I do with the Jews. He used it on right, left, and center. Also, the peace with Egypt was based on a fatwa, on a religious verdict, which was given to Sadat in 1979, that he is allowed to make peace with Israel, just like Muhammad gave peace to the infidels of Mecca in Hudaybiyah. So definitely the Hudaybiyah peace is a precedent to what happens today in the Middle East. Yet, unfortunately, Israelis are not aware so much to the fact that Muslims are allowed to lie about peace and war.
Thank you, Dr. Kedar.
Pleasure to be here. And I wish you good luck. And please urge your government to move the embassy here in Israel to Jerusalem. It will contribute to peace. It will contribute to convincing our neighbors that their struggle over Jerusalem is gone is failed, and now it's time to make peace with Israel as it is.
And Dr. Kedar, also, I think I should have mentioned this earlier, that of course, Ethiopia has a very special relationship with Jerusalem, the city, as well, as a symbolic place, but also a place where the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church owns properties, and the Ethiopian kings and rulers throughout the years used to purchase property in Jerusalem. So this is part of the bond that unites our two peoples also. Which is very unique and special here in this country.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yes. So
thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone has a good evening, and we will send the link to the recording for those also who couldn't make it, and also to those who were here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
One more question. One last question. Sorry, doctor.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry for being late. I'm a Christian. I'm an Ethiopian. I'm an African. Now I just want to ask Dr. Abba, thank you for being with us this evening. It's very insightful, very powerful. It's an eye-opener, to be honest, because it's not only the information now we see, what's the information behind people, propagating, saying something. So I want to ask you, Doctor, in many Christian communities, there is now a limited or sometimes distorted understanding of Jewish perspective and the biblical covenants. So what do you have as a future? Because now I can see you have so many knowledge which you can share to Christian leaders like pastors, priests. So what do you think about the future? Do you have any platform just to educate people? Because you have something special. So I just, as a kind of a question, do you understand me, Doctor?
Yes. Look,
okay.
I really believe in the media. What we do now is very important because it will be uploaded to YouTube. And I can send it around, you can send it around, everyone who finds it interesting will send it around. People will watch it, people will learn from it, and if it's on YouTube, they can watch it once, twice, thrice, as many times as they want until they remember everything, until they understand everything. This is what happens. And this is why today knowledge is not restricted to any country, to any man. Because once the knowledge goes to the media, especially to the mass media, to the social media as it is here and on YouTube, which will be uploaded, there is no limits to the knowledge. Everybody can listen, everybody can learn, everybody can shape his views according to what he hears, and this is what is so important also for me to speak in English. Although English is not my mother tongue, yet I do the effort to speak in English in order to reach many communities. But by the way, I would like to recommend to you something which I'm involved in, which is a website named Newsrael. Let me show you. It's newsrael.com. NEWSRAEL.com. Let me show it to you. I think it's this. No.
Is it in a Hebrew or doc?
Newsrael.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's not, we can write it on our notebook, no problem.
I wrote it. I write in the chat. I'll write it in the chat. Where's the chat? No, this chat. I'm writing it now. Okay, you see in the chat, newsrael.com. Oh, no, excuse me, there is a mistake. A mistake.
Yes.
Newsrael.com. Yeah.
Mhm.
Click it or copy it and use it, because this website, there's also an application with this name, Newsrael. You can download it on Android and iPhone as well. It works very well in both environments. And use it as a source of knowledge. I am, for the full disclosure, I am the vice president of the company which runs this media outlet, both in application and the website. And I highly recommend that you recommend it to your people, to your followers, to your communities, to use Newsrael. It has, I think, like 10 languages: English, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic, Persian. And I don't think that Gez is one of them, or whatever you speak in Ethiopia. English
Right.
is there.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think now
Thank you,
for real,
Dr.
we'll have to wrap
Thank you.
up after 2 hours. So thank you again very much to our guest speaker, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Thank you to everyone who joined tonight. And until the next time, we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Todara
Everyone.
baraba.
Blessings to everyone.
Thank you. Blessings.
Pleasure.